Good day, everyone. This is John from 3D Create Tutorials, and welcome to this tutorial. I'll be showing you how to create this very cool mechanical object here, as you see, and let's get to it. Let's start off by deleting the cube. So select it and hit the delete key. And I'm going to start off with kind of zooming in a little bit. And some things I'm going to do here is basically work with actual line shapes just to make this a little bit easier. So I'm going to go to the mesh. I'm going to go to circle. I'm going to click on that. And this is the wrong, of course, radius or turn area. So I'm going to go in here and actually change this also to 64 points. And this is going to be an in-gun object, just for your awareness. And I'll be showing more stuff on how to do quad-based objects. All right, so I'm going to go in here and rotate this 90 degrees on the X and on the Z. So there we go. Now it's at the right angle that I'm working to. And I'm good with that. Okay, so now I'm going to create another shape. So let's go ahead and add, and we're going to add a square. So go to the mesh again, and we're going to add a plane this time, just so we can get that moving in the right direction. So go to plane, and again, it's on the wrong axis. So we're going to actually create and scale this up just a little bit. And we're going to go back to the rotation. Again, Z on 90, and we're going to go with X on 90. So it's in the right direction, just like the other one. All right, cool. So now we're going to manipulate this a little bit by going to edit mode on the top there, and we're going to select the points. So select these 2 points and hit the G key, and we're going to move this back on the actual Y key so it's actually perfectly, aligned. And then we can also kind of just maneuver some of these things a little bit differently. So again, hit those 2 points on top, G key on the Z. I'm going to hit these back ones here, and again, G key. We'll move this on the Y so it's perfectly aligned. I'm just trying to keep it kind of, basically very straight. And this is an easy way. I'm going to go now to divide the actual square into 2 sections. So I have more points to manipulate. And now I'm going to select those 3 and actually hit the G key on the Z and bring it up. So I'm creating a shape to kind of blend into this circle shape. Does that make sense? So go ahead and select these 3 back ones as well. Hit G key, and on the Z, bring it up a little bit, making it kind of more of a rotated shape here. So select the whole thing and move it up with the G key, kind of center it on the center of that square area. And again, I'm just trying to place this in a good location. So again, select those 2 points and move them inward. And just trying to get this adjusted the best I can to kind of fit into this actual circle so it blends in right. So let's go and select the faces here with the face selection. And we'll select those as well as the other ones. And now that we've got those selected, we're going to actually hit the actual delete key and then select actual delete faces. And it still keeps the face there, which is fine. And now we're going to take both of these and kind of just work them. Okay, go to object mode. We're going to select both objects at the same time. We're going to hit the Control J key to make them into a 1. And now we could actually go in and manipulate this a little bit better. All right, so we're going to select the points. And we're going to maneuver these 2 backwards. So hit the G key on the Y. And just kind of line it up with the actual circle. And we're going to bring it back a little bit, trying to get this kind of perfectly aligned. I'm going to have to move the other shape down a little bit. So I'm going to select these 2 here and just kind of maneuver this down with the G key on the Z. This way it just lines up with the line. Try to get that as close as we can. This will just fit much better this way. Okay, first of all, I'm going to actually select the square first and then the circle. And then we're going to go to select merge at first. So that way it's exactly where it needs to be on the circle. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So select, again, we're going to do it first on this one because I selected that one first. All right, so we can select these other points here and just delete them with the delete key after I shift key. And so select and delete points, vertices. Okay, so now we got kind of our shape. We can get rid of these 2 points as well. There's no need for these 2. So dissolve those. So I'm going to select these points here. I'm going to hit the actual F key to make that into a face. And now I got 2 faces basically. two separate faces. And we'll select both of them. And now I'm going to actually hit the extrude or select the tool itself, which is here in the middle, and just push this outward. So this way we can create our basic shape here. And I could probably put in like just the same number, like -2.5 most likely. And I'm good with that. So now I got the shape kind of, exactly at 2.5. You can go back in and start adjusting something. So I'm going to make sure it's the right angle. And if it's not, it's going to be red. So you got to go to normals down under the mesh and go ahead and flip. This way it's the right, basically, it's turned inside out basically. Okay, cool. Now we're going to work some of these actual edges. First of all, I want to select this and try to merge these into one. So hit the F key. And the same thing here. Hit both F, and it becomes one face. All right, so we go back to the side view. And now I'm going to go in and kind of adjust some things. So I'm going to first add in a disk here. So go to add and go to cylinder and go ahead and just actually install it. And I'm going to change this out and rotate it basically on the Z again, 90 degrees, as well as on the X 90 degrees. So it's an exact right angle. And hit enter. And then we could go to 64 again. So it's the same exact. You could type it in, 64. Hit enter. And the radius, we can bring it the depth a little bit down. That's fine. And bring it down smaller. It's like 0.77. And we can bring this inward. I can actually bring up the depth a little bit so it actually extrudes into the space. There we go. This would be an easy way to cut it, basically. Okay, so before we do anything, we're going to go in and actually just do a actual nice bevel on this. So we're going to select those two edges and pull them out with Control B. And same thing here, Control B, and we're going to slide it out a little bit with so many actual faces. So here I did 9. And then we got this one on the bottom and the top. Select it with Shift. And again, we're going to go Control B. So pull this out. And we can keep the same. That's fine. Just giving it some nice curvature, basically. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and actually boolean this section out. I'm going to go over to the Edit section and select it and go to the actual brush boolean, which is the difference. So this way I can actually manipulate it after I cut it. And you can see the actual box method around it. So it makes it easier to kind of adjust it as you go. Okay, so now that's looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and start adjusting the actual object itself. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, and we're going to start moving this inward, basically. First of all, I'm going to kind of get to the right angle here. So first I'm going to add in the standard cube, and it's just exactly the normal cube. And we're going to now position the actual other part into the space. So here we go. But the best way to do this is to actually go to object mode. We can go in and go to set origin. We're going to do this to the center of the mass. So to set to the center mass, there we go. Now we select it again. And now we're going to actually snap it. So go to snap and go to selection to cursor. There we go. Now it's centered. Okay, so I'm now going to reposition this box. So I'm going to select it. And I'm going to use the G key and move it over to the actual Y, kind of closer to the front here. Cut a little bit of that section out is basically what we're doing. And now we've got to readjust it. So let's go ahead and move it down a little bit with the G key on the actual Z. And good for now. And then we're going to continue to edit this. And I'm going to actually select the very edges on each end. Actually here I just used the S key to kind of shrink it in together. And now I'm actually going to use the actual same thing. Select them both again and hit the Control B. So I could actually add a nice little fillet around this, or round bevel. So there we go. And now I'm going to readjust this face here and bring it up with the G key and the Z. and make sure the bottom one as well. G key with the Z. And that way it'll cut right into it. I'm going to bring this in just a little bit. First of all, I'm going to rotate this so make a nice bevel. So select both sides and hit the actual Control B again. Just rotate this around. And I'm good with that. So now go ahead and select object mode. First of all, I went with the difference again on this with the boolean, just like we did before under edit. And we can select it and kind of move it. So G key on the Y, just to bring it in a little bit. And this is one great thing about the difference. With the brush selection, we can actually see what we're doing to get the right, cut that we want. Okay, so I'm going to go in and actually now select the hard ops, which I have that add-on. If you don't have that, you have to actually go around and select each of these edges all the way around, and you're going to have to make them into like a sharp edge, and then you can actually use the smooth as well. But with actual hard ops, you just have to select sharpen. It's that simple. Select the whole thing and hit sharpen and done with it. But first, I'm going to go in here and select this actual disc that we originally did. And again, same situation here. I got to make this smooth. So the best thing to do is basically unhide it. So I'm going to go in and actually unhide everything. So bring this out so we can see all of them. And I'm just going to basically right click and then I'm going to hit shade smooth on that intersection. So that's why it's smooth and it reacts back to the other ones with smooth. It's kind of the process. So now I'm going to select the main thing, shade smooth, and again, it comes out really nice that way. We also got to select the box inside. So select this, again, right click, shade smooth. So there's different options you can do, but personally, it's really great to use the hard ops version. It's my recommendation. All right, so let's go back to edit. And we could actually now hide those. Okay, so now you can see the lines. See how it's nice and blue around? That makes it a sharp edge, so it helps control the look. And we can go in now and try to actually add in a nice bevel. So I'm selecting the edge here, just to make it look nice. I'm good with that much distance on that actual bevel. I'm going to first, though, do these two sections here. Now, I went back and at the end, I actually, basically pulled this into one object. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and do a nice bevel on that. Just make it rounded. Keep in mind, if I wanted to have it on both sides. So I'm going to select both sides of this and with the line tool and pull this out again with the bevel. Just to make it look nice. Okay, so one thing I'm going to have to do before I actually do the bevel in the inside of this thing is I'm going to have to go in and actually convert the object with all the modifiers just so it actually works properly. So I'm going to select both of these sections here, and we're going to add another actual bevel on top of the existing one just to give it more roundness. So I'm going to go with basically with a couple lines here, maybe 3 or 4, just to make it look nice and smooth. Again, object mode, yeah, it's coming out really nice. So I'm not going over texture and lighting, but I'm now going to go up to the actual object section and go to the actual convert to mesh. And this will get rid of all the modifiers on this object. So now it's nice and clean. But of course, you got to make sure you select it before you do all that. So there we go. And we're going to continue to make this a little bit better. I'm going to now go in and go to cycles so it looks nicer and go to GPU. It just has a much better look with cycles personally. That's what I use. And now let's go to edit mode. And you can see the lines here. And we got to now select the edges here. I'm going to do a nice bevel on this edge inside as well. Best way to do that, though, is go from the top view And you can use the selection tool to bring it up and just get the intersections. There we go. That easy. That's really the simplest way to select your edges. And then we'll do the bottom as well. Make sure they're all selected. All right, so now you got them selected and you want to just do a quick, bevel. You pull it out and you get all kinds of weird stuff going on. It's because the way the actual form of this shape is created, it's not rounded all the way around, and it's not like on the very corners, it's very tight. So it's not in the right, coordinates. In some programs, it just makes it real easy to do that. But for some reason in Blender, it's really hard to control some of these things. And again, we got to go back and just make sure everything's selected and kind of, dial this a little bit better. So we're going to continue to make this work. So here we go. Okay, so we're going to start with the center section, or the outside center sections, just to make it a little easier. We're going to try to do these first. So select the bottom sections on the line, and then the top section with the line, and both sides. So we're going to get all these selected on those two round sections, and we're going to do Control B to pull this out. So Control B, and let's pull this out nice and cleanly. Don't want to go too excessive, just enough. And these cylinders are a lot easier to do than the ones that have been cut out, because there's just a lot more control. All right, so Control B, pull this out, and good with that, with about 4. All right, perfect. So that's completed. Now we can focus on in the inside sections. Okay, we're going to select the very top sections with the line selection, and just select that whole thing. Just make sure we get them all. And it's going to be the see-through mode, so we can get all the actual faces selected. And yeah, that looks good right there. So we got all the lines, and then we can just deselect these other ones with hitting the Control key. And we'll go back in and just kind of unselect them. Again, just go through slowly. Just make sure you only get the ones that you want to deselect. You want to keep all the edges in selection mode, and continue this process all the way through. So just don't hit the actual top sections or the bottom sections. And again, in the intersection here as well. So there we go. Now we got everything selected, and we're good with that. So we're going to hit the Control B and pull this out. Be very careful when pulling this out. If you do too much, it's going to cause a problem. Just kind of do a bit less than what I did. I had some edges that were kind of messed up on the intersections on the corners because of the edges. So just keep that in mind. Just kind of go very small on your pullout. Even though it looks fine from the actual video itself, it is a little bit chaotic on the very corner pieces. So again, just kind of lighten it down a little bit more than what I did. Okay, so now we're going to actually go ahead and go to Add, and we're going to add a mesh and a cylinder. And it's already set up pretty high, but in 64, which is fine. I'm going to rotate this again on the actual X, and I went to 90 degrees, and the Z is, of course, 90 degrees. So make sure those are similar. And we're going to move this into place just to kind of get this where I need it. So I'm going to hit the G key, and we're going to move it into the space here. So move it kind of right into the center. Now, a good thing to do would be putting this into the see-through mode so we can see what we're doing. Again, there's a better way to do this, but for now, this is what I'm going to do for this part of the modeling. Okay, go to see-through mode. Again, we're going to go to both see-throughs and put it on the X. So we can see exactly where this is lined up. So as you can see, it's not exactly centered. So we're going to hit the G key and maneuver this into place. All right, so I'm going to move this into place a little bit with the G key and the Y. Just kind of slowly dial this in. Again, I'm going to shrink this down to fit into the hole, basically. So it's more centered, right about there. And just now scale it down, but we could start pulling it inward. Don't want to get too small, just right over to the edge of this space. So right about there. Perfect. All right, so that's it for that. Okay, so I'm going to actually now go back to the shading mode, to the actual cycles, and I'm going to now select the edges of this object. So go to edit mode, make sure it's selected first. And we're going to select the very edge here with the Alt key, and then Shift Alt with this edge here. Perfect. Now we're going to pull this out with the Control B and pull this outward. And we're going to change the amount of detail here. We're going to reduce it down with the mouse wheel and bring it down. It's going to be more of a chamfer. And then again, we're going to select the end here, as well as this end first with the Alt key. So select Alt, select this one here, Shift Alt. And we can pull these out first with the Control B. Pull this out and then rotate it around. A little bit of a radius there as well. So about 9. That looks good. Now we can go back. We can select this inner piece here and this inner piece, and we're going to hit the delete key with the faces. And then we'll select this edge here. So select edge, select the thing on the side here, and Alt key. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Select it with the Shift Alt. And again, we're going to go now to edge. Select that down and then bridge edge loops. So once you get that selected, it'll actually connect. Now, if it's not exactly right, there's a problem there. I've accidentally pulled too much of another line here by accident. So I'm going to undo that. Control Z all the way through until that goes away. Make sure I unselect this before I pull that out. I must have selected that by accident. So if that happens, just undo and go back. Okay, now I'm going to redo it again. A little bit tighter this time. I think it looked better. Again, go ahead and select the two faces. Hit the delete key. So delete and faces. There we go. Again, hit the edges. And we can select it here as well as the other side. So Alt, Shift, select. Okay, cool. Now we're going to do again, edge, bridge edge loops, and that's great. Now it's perfectly aligned. And now we can select the edges of both of these. So Shift Alt and Shift Alt. And then we're going to pull this out. Again, it's going to automatically keep the same radius or the bevel that we just did. And I'm good with that. I think it looks nice. And now we can select it and we're going to do a shade smooth. I just think that's going to look perfect. So I'm going to now go back and kind of zoom in and select that very inner edge with the line tool. And I'm going to hit the Shift D to make a copy of it. And then I'm going to hit the G key and move it on the X. So it kind of is the inner of that piece, so it exactly lines up. This is just a real easy way to make a copy of something. All right, cool. So I'm going to go back in now and kind of align this properly. I'm going to go ahead and mirror this. Again, just using hard ops on this, but if you don't have that, just go ahead and hit the mirror on the other side and make sure it's on the actual X. So it actually copies it to the other side. I'm going to go in here now and select this, select linked, and that way it's all selected. I'm going to hit the F key to make an actual poly there. And this one did it as well because it's a mirror of the exact opposite side, right? All right, so let's go ahead and select the actual face of this, and we're going to actually now extrude this in. So first of all, I'm going to hit the extrude and push this through into the space, just like that. And I'm good with that there. Now we could do some more adjustments. So select the edge line, and we're going to go to the very end here. Select the piece here with the Alt key, and again, Control B, and we're going to pull this out. So I'm going to go about there. I'm going to rotate it with my mouse wheel and add quite a bit of detail here, like 10. Cool. Now I can go back to object mode. Now, I should have made it a separate object, but that's okay. We can go to edit and just select sections of the face here. And then go back to select. And we're going to do select linked. So select linked, linked. Okay, now we can go in and go to mesh, and we can take this away. First of all, I'm going to move this in a little bit more since I've already got it, just like that. And that looks better already. Get that a little bit closer inside. And now I could go back. I should not have deselected it, but anyway. So select it again, select linked. And again, we're going to go to mesh now, and now separate selection. Could have done that the first time. All right, cool. Now we got it selected with the object mode, so select it, and we're going to hit the right mouse button and shade smooth. There we go. Now it looks nice. So let's hit the Shift D to make a copy of this. And I'm using this to kind of cut into this other object. But I took the mirror off so I don't have two sides. And this is just a real easy way to do this. So now that I made a copy of it, I'm going to pull this other piece in a little bit more on the G with the actual X. Just kind of make it a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to take this now, shrink it down. But first I got to actually take the actual object and put the main point into this section here. So I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to select Origin to actual center of mass. That way it's actually in the center, and then I can scale it properly into the center. So I'm going to scale it down, and then I'm going to move it into place. So I'm going to hit the G key. First of all, I'm going to edit the edge here first, since I can see it, and select the edge selection, and then select the edge here with the Alt key. And then I'm going to hit the Control B to make it into a nice smooth. Actually, I'm going to go with a chamfer here. And then I'm going to go back and kind of just dial this in a little bit better with the Alt key on both edges here. Control B, and pull this out with a little bit of a bevel, nice rounded bevel. Just like that. All right, so now that we've gotten this, we're going to go in and make sure it's actually selected. And we're going to pull this in. So hit the G key on the actual X and move it into place. This is going to be like a cutter into the other object. This is just a real quick, easy way to do this. Make sure it's lined up properly before we cut. I'm going to pull this back just a little bit more so I can get more of that nice smooth edge. And then I'm going to make an actual mirror of this. So go to the side here, go to modifiers, and we're going to go to, if you have hard ops, this is a real easy way. If not, then you can just do add modifier, mirror. And I'm going to show both ways, of course. But if you have that, you can just hit mirror. But again, it won't work because the actual main part of your object is in the center. So we're going to change that now, set the origin actually to the cursor. So select the cursor, and now it's in the center of this. And then we can mirror, and that way it perfectly centers itself as it should. A little bit of workaround to make that happen. So now we select those outer objects. Actually, we want to select the outer pieces first and then inner pieces. And again, we can actually now go in and hit the actual edit mode again. So edit, and we're going to go down to the booleans on top here. And again, we're going to hit difference so we can see what we're doing. So if we don't like what we see here, we can actually scale it down or do whatever we want. But I'm good with that, so we can now get rid of those and hide them. So I'm good with that actually setup. And I'm going to move this in just a little bit with the G key so it's a little bit more lined up properly on the X. So move it in just a smidgen, just like that. All right, right about there. Pull that in a little bit with the S key. I just like to think that looked better. All right, so right there is great. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and go add a mesh and plane, and then bring this in and hit the S key and just scale this up. And then I'm going to go to the side view here and hit G key on the actual Z key. So bring that down so it's kind of like close to the bottom there. You might have to readjust. So G, Z, and move it into place so it's right underneath it, so it has some shadows right about there. And there we go. So this will help give us a nice, break between the two colorations. Okay, so I decided I want to make a double-sided of this piece, the main holder, just to make it look a little bit better. So I've decided to go back to the actual cycle section here. Again, I'm not going to go over texturing like I discussed. So I'm going to actually now select this on the actual X side here. And it's basically going to move it on the Y. So we're going to move it toward the left. So G, Y, and move it kind of in the center of that edge right there. So it's kind of flat right there. I want to make sure it's on both of those sections where it's kind of flat. So when I actually connect it together, it'll be a flat piece in the middle, basically. So now that I've got this selected, I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to start changing some things here. So I'm going to origin to actual cursor, and I'm going to select this other piece now. Same thing. We're going to go back to Object, set origin to 3D cursor. I'm going to do this in all three pieces. So that way they all kind of are perfectly aligned. So Object to 3D cursor. And now that they're all done this way, I can go in and just go ahead and, I'm going to show you how to do this without having hard ops. Much easier with hard ops, but anyway, we're going to go to Generate, Mirror, and we got these two sections together. See how it kind of goes through that whole process of not really perfect, but if you did a hard ops, it exactly does what it's supposed to do one time. It just saves time. So what I'm going to do now is basically select these other things, make sure clipping is on. And we're going to select also the bisect as well as the flip. And this way they all combine into that object exactly as you see it. And again, clipping, make sure that's selected. And everything else is good. So again, with hard ops, you just do one click, so it saves time. But again, whatever you got, you got. So we're going to go ahead and apply. So it becomes one object. And I'm going to actually select each of these sections here. And again, I'm going to go back to, again, hard ops on here. I could just select it, but I'm going to go ahead and apply what I had originally on the mirror on this. And again, we're going to go back to mirror, and I'm going to make sure it's on the X. And that's pretty much it. And then we're going to say apply. Same with this one here. It already has the boolean cylinder as well as the hard ops mirror. We're going to go ahead and select it and go ahead and modify. So we're going to apply it. So apply. And then we'll go back and apply the boolean because we're accepting what we like. Now once you do that, you can't go back unless you undo. So go to generate, mirror. And again, it's still on the X. It's perfectly aligns. And we'll apply. I personally like hard ops because it just saves you a lot more steps. Okay. And it does a lot more things than that. So, all right. So we're good with the shape now, and we're going to do a few more modifications as we go forward. All right. So we're going to do some more cuts. So we're going to select this line here with the shift, with the Alt key with the line. So select this line right about here. We're going to use this to help us drive a nice cylinder. So select Shift D. We're going to hit the G key, and then on the actual X, we're going to move this out. It doesn't go right away. Hit it again, G, X, and move it into place, away from the other objects. We can see what we're doing. Okay, now that we got this, we can actually hit the F key to make it into a face. And this is a much easier way to do this. And we can hit the extrude. Now be careful when you're doing this. You want to make sure it's going straight. So don't do it that way. Make sure these are all on 0 on X and Y. I could always just type it in, but I'm going to do it again. Just make sure it goes straight. When you do this, so again, pull this out straight, just like that. Make sure those are 0. And we're good with that. This is just a real quick way to do it. Okay, we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to actually create a hollow section in the cylinder. So we're going to go in and actually first select the edge. But first we're going to do the actual faces here. So select both sides. And we're going to do the actual inset face and pull this inward. So about right about there. And we're good with that. Now we can actually select each of these faces. And let's delete them with the delete key. And delete faces. And then I'm just going to select the edges. So select each of these edges. I'm sure there's a little bit better way to do this, but anyway, this is what I know at the moment. So go ahead and select the edges. And select this one here with Alt key and Shift Alt. And now we're going to go back to the edge and bridge edge loop. All right, cool. So now it's like its own open cylinder. And we go to the other side and we're going to do some modifications. All right, so let's go to the side and just do the bevel here. So select both edges, Shift Alt and first Alt. And now we're going to pull this out with the Control B. Not too much, just a little bit. And then we're going to rotate with the mouse wheel just to give it some more detail here, just like that. And there we go. And we're good with that. Now I could actually go back to object mode and move it into place. So shade smooth it first. And then I'm going to go hit. First of all, it's actually the same object as the one before, so we got to be careful about that. So let's undo that. And then we're going to select the actual edit mode, and we're going to select this cylinder here, and we're going to break it away. So select it with the actual faces, and then go back to select linked, and we're going to go ahead and go mesh, separate selection. That way it's separate now, it's its own object. Go to object mode now, and now we can actually hit the G key on the actual X. Now, if I want to scale this up, I need to go back and do the actual settings to the center of this, so right to the middle face, middle section. And I'm scaling this up a little bit, and now I hit the G key and on the X to move it into place. So just like we did before, we just got to move the actual main point into that center section of the object. So now I did this, I'm going to mirror this to the other side. First of all, it won't mirror because I got the actual the main thing in the wrong place. So we got to change the origin. So the origin needs to move to now back to the cursor. So keep that in mind. So select it, set origin to cursor. Now we can actually do the mirror before we do the mirror. So go to generate mirror. And see, now it's actually did what it's supposed to do on the X. I'm also going to do on the actual Z. So now I got both sides being worked at the same time. And that's great. So now that we've done that, we can apply. Now select this section here and this section here. And now we could hit the actual boolean. So we can go to edit and go back up. Edit, boolean difference. I don't want to change anything, but I want to make sure, first of all, that I first select this object first and then that one, so that way it cuts properly. And then go ahead and do the difference, and it cuts into the object really nicely. All right. Gives it some variations there, which is cool. And just make sure it's done it all the way around. Check all sides. And it's looking good. Cool. Now we're going to go in and kind of clean this up a little bit. We're going to add some more roundness to it. So go to edit mode. I'm going to deselect everything. And I'm now going to select this edge piece here and start basically going right to the edge here and Alt key. I'm going to do all these at the same time. So Shift, Alt, and the other side as well. Move it over and Shift Alt. All right, so we now got them all selected. We can now do a nice Control B. Now, if it's acting up again, it's because the way it's set up. Sometimes it just does this. It shouldn't do this, but for some reason it does. It shouldn't do this on a cylinder. It should be simple. Just pull it and it's exactly bevels what you're supposed to see, right? But for some reason, when it comes to, when you set these things up, it just doesn't work the way it should. All right, so now I'm going to go in and add some lines to this just to help with that whole process. See how that's going to not work right no matter what I do? I'm going to go in now and actually select the actual adding in those extra lines into this space. So again, I'm going to go in here, select the actual added line and bring it closer to the edge here. This is like loop cuts basically. I'm going to bring this in as well, kind of like closer to that edge. And then I'm going to add a little bit more detail here. So again, I'm going to go ahead and select this now. And again, it's still going to do the same thing. It's not going to work, which is fine. We'll figure this out. So the best way to do this is add a few more lines here, make it a little bit tighter, and then I'll cut out the center section itself just to work around this. There's always solutions to everything. So let's go ahead and do another loop cut in the center here and one in the center here. So it kind of dials it a little bit better. And now we can go in and just delete this inner piece. We'll do one more and one more, just get in a little closer to the edge. I probably didn't need to do those outer ones. I could always delete those if I wanted to. Anyways, let's go ahead and now select the actual Alt key. We'll select both of these lines of polygons, right? So both edges, and then we're going to delete faces. All right, cool. So I got rid of that edge that wasn't working for us. Now we'll go to edge selection on both sides here, select them. And we're going to do a actual bridge edge loop again. And it's just one poly there, one face all the way around. And now we can select these two outer pieces. And we could do the Control B again, pull this out. Not too much. I don't need that many edges. So we're going to mouse wheel it down. And we're going to bring it a little closer, just to make it smooth on those edges. Right about there. And I'm good with 3 on each side. There we go. So that cleaned that up really well. Now go back to object mode. And there we go. We do have a little issue with the top edge, which we'll fix in a second. All right, so the bottom of this section doesn't have the same problem as the top. So I'm going to go ahead and just mirror this so it actually fixes the top. So I'm going to do that just in HardOps. You can do it with mirror as well. You just go to mirror and just select the actual Z. That way it will completely copy it to their side. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and use the HardOps section of this. So got it selected, go into mirror, and it's right down the center of this space. I'm going to do the opposite side. So opposite side, and now it fixes, see if right here, it fixes that edge. And both sides are now perfectly aligned. Again, you could just do that with YYY on the actual regular mirror, if that makes sense. And we can apply. Cool. So that fixes that. Now that we've done that, we can go in and just, I deleted the other side as well, so I can actually now mirror this to the other side. Since I fixed the one side, I'm going to do it to the other side as well. So again, mirror this to the opposite side down. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I put the actual origin back in the center. And again, go back to mirror. So generate mirror. And we're going to do opposite side on X. Perfect. And that looks really nice. Cool. All right, so we're going to now add another thing in here. I'm going to select the object and go back to edit mode on the main object here. I'm going to select the actual faces. So select all 4 sections of this area. And basically what we're going to do is do a Shift D. So we make a copy of this, and then we're going to hit the G key, and we're going to move this on the actual X to bring it away from there. So G, X, and move it outward. Again, we might have to actually undo that. Just go ahead and G again, X, and move it out. So now we got a little section here. I'm just going to add a little bit more detail to this to make it pop a little bit more. So now I'm going to extrude this and bring it outward, just like that. And that looks good. And I'm going to now select the edges and just do a nice bevel. So let's make sure we select all the edges all the way around. So basically continue, hit Shift as you go through. And you're going to go all the way around the other side as well. And all the way up, around. So continue to go, make sure everything's completely selected. Now that we got them all, we can add a little bit of a nice bevel to this. So again, Control B to pull this out. And everything's selected, so go ahead and hit Control B. And we're going to pull this out just a little bit, not too much. And we're going to add in basically 3 lines. So right about there. Not too much. Make sure it's all been done. And that looks really good. Cool. Now we can actually take this section here and we can move it in. So go ahead and make sure we got everything linked. And we can actually now separate this out from the other object. So mesh, separate, selection. And now it's its own object. And we're going to change the color of this and move it inward. So hit the G key on the X, put it in place, and we're going to mirror to the other side. Same thing as what we just did, and get a nice position with this. All right, cool. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial. Thanks for joining me. Please subscribe, and I'll continue to build stuff out for everybody to learn. All right, thank you.